President Trump added new detail about his July phone call with Ukraine's president.
The conversation I had was largely congratulatory,
Including for the first time how Joe Biden and his son Hunter played into that conversation.
was largely the fact that we don't want our people, like Vice President Biden and his son, creating to the corruption already in the Ukraine.
The firestorm is whether the president crossed a line by engaging a foreign leader's help to investigate a political rival, and whether pending U.S. military aid for Ukraine was a factor.
There was no quid pro quo.
I asked the president to explain why the Ukraine aid was delayed.
And I didn't delay anything. We paid the military aid to the best of my knowledge.
After this complaint was filed,
Listen to me. I gave so much more to Ukraine than Obama did.
But couldn't that leader have self-pressure,
And you know what you
sir?
should do? Also
couldn't
ask.
he have self-pressure?
The president appeared irritated, but 3 hours later at a stop in Houston, he readily responded.
That was not pressure. I know when I give pressure.
Democrats in Congress denied access to the secret whistleblower report, say the White House must cooperate and provide more about the Ukraine call.
There is no privilege to engage in underhanded discussions.
Regarding Joe Biden, no evidence of wrongdoing tied to his son's Ukraine business has been found. He pushed back this weekend.
I'm calling the president to release the transcript of the call.
Today, the president said maybe.
But we'll make a determination about how to release it.
Inspector General formally notified the Congress that the administration was forbidding him from turning over a whistleblower complaint on Constitution Day. This is a violation of law. Shortly thereafter, press reports began to break of a phone call by the President of the United States calling upon a foreign power to intervene in his election. This is a breach of his constitutional responsibilities. The facts are these. The Intelligence Community Inspector General, who was appointed by President Trump, determined that the complaint is both of urgent concern and credible. And its disclosure, he went on to say, relates to one of the most significant and important of the Director of National Intelligence's responsibility to the American people. On Thursday, the Inspector General testified before the House Intelligence Committee, stating that the acting Director of National Intelligence blocked him from disclosing the whistleblower complaint. This is a violation of law. The law is unequivocal. The DNI staff, it says the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, shall provide Congress the full whistleblower complaint. For more than 25 years, I've served on the Intelligence Committee as a member, as the ranking member, as part of the Gang of Four, even before I was in the leadership. I was there when we created the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. That did not exist before 2004. I was there even earlier in the 90s when we wrote the whistleblower laws and continue to write them to improve them to ensure the security of our intelligence and the safety of our whistleblowers. I know what their purpose was, and we proceeded with balance and caution as we wrote the laws. I can say with authority the Trump administration's actions undermine both our national security and our intelligence and our protections of the whistleblowers, more than both. This Thursday, the acting DNI will appear before the House Intelligence Committee. At that time, he must turn over the whistleblower's full complaint to the committee. He will have to choose whether to break the law or honor his responsibility to the Constitution. On the final day of the Constitutional Convention in 1787, when our Constitution was adopted, Americans gathered on the steps of Independence Hall to await the news of the government our founders had crafted. They asked Benjamin Franklin, "What do we have, a republic or a monarchy?" Franklin replied, "A republic, if you can keep it. Our responsibility is to keep it. Our republic endures because of the wisdom of our Constitution, enshrined in 3 co-equal branches of government serving as checks and balances on each other. The actions taken to date by the President have seriously violated the Constitution, especially when the President says, Article 2 says I can do whatever I want. For the past several months, we have been investigating in our committees and litigating in the courts, so the House can gather all the relevant facts and consider whether to exercise its full Article 1 powers, including a constitutional power of the utmost gravity, approval of articles of impeachment. And this week, the President has admitted to asking the President of Ukraine to take actions which would benefit him politically. The actions of the Trump presidency revealed the dishonorable fact of the President's betrayal of his oath of office, betrayal of our national security, and betrayal of the integrity of our elections. Therefore, today, I'm announcing the House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry. I'm directing our 6 committees to proceed with their investigations under that umbrella of impeachment inquiry. The President must be held accountable. No one is above the law.
face very daunting problems and some might say humiliating threats that are taking place indirectly, but the opportunity to generate a united Ukraine, getting it right, is within your grasp, and we want to be your partner, your friend in the project. We want to, and we're ready to assist. We can help in stabilizing and strengthening Ukraine's economy by helping you withstand the unfair economic pressure being thrust upon you. We stand ready to do that, and I say the American people stand ready. And this is a delicate thing to say to a group of leaders in their House of Parliament, but you have to fight the cancer of corruption that is endemic in your system right now.
understand how we got here, we have to understand what happened in Ukraine between 2014 and 2016. Hunter Biden, former Vice President Biden's son, joined the board of a Ukrainian natural gas company called Burisma Holdings in 2014. Burisma's owner had come under scrutiny by Ukrainian prosecutors for possible abuse of power and unlawful enrichment. No charges were filed and the investigation was dormant by the time then Vice President Biden arrived in December of 2015.
I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't.
Biden pressured Ukraine to fire their top prosecutor, a guy named Viktor Shokin, because he was not sufficiently pursuing corruption cases.
First, I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Shokin was fired in March. Yuri Latinsko replaced him in May 2016. Rudy Giuliani, the president's personal lawyer, met with Latinsko in both January and February. And just before the Ukrainian election, Latinsko made allegations about what the Bidens did in Ukraine.
Look at Joe Biden. He calls them and says, don't you dare prosecute if you don't fire this prosecutor. The prosecutor was after his son. And he said, if you fire the prosecutor, you'll be okay. Yeah. And if you don't fire the prosecutor, we're not giving you $2 billion in loan guarantees or whatever he was supposed to give.
In May, the fact-checker found no evidence to support this claim. Latinsko eventually walked back his suggestion that the Bidens had acted improperly, and the administration notified Congress of their intent to release military aid to Ukraine.
July 18th, the Office of Management and Budget official informed the departments and agencies that the president earlier that month had issued instructions to suspend all U.S. security assistance to Ukraine. Neither OMB nor the NSC staff knew why this instruction had been issued.
It is in this context that the new president of Ukraine would speak to Donald Trump over the phone on July 25th.
The president pressured Mr. Zelensky to, and then there's a few bullet points. The first one says, initiate or continue an investigation into the activities of former Vice President Joseph Biden and his son Hunter Biden.
After the July 25th conversation between the Ukraine president and the president of the United States, and the White House lawyers ordered other staff to move the transcript from its typical repository to a more secure location.
Upon reviewing the complaint, we were immediately struck by the fact that many of the allegations of the complaint are based on a conversation between the president and another foreign leader.
Did you discuss Joe Biden, his son, or his family with the leader?
It doesn't matter what I discuss, but I will say this. Somebody ought to look into Joe Biden's statement because it was disgraceful, where he talked about billions of dollars that he's not giving to a certain country unless a certain prosecutor is taken off the case.
You never asked anything about Joe Biden.
The only thing I asked about Joe Biden is to get to the bottom of how it was that Lutsenko, who was appointed, dismissed the case against Antak.
So you did ask Ukraine to look into Joe Biden?
Of course I did.
Mr. President, would you like President Zelensky to do more on Joe Biden and the investigation?
No, I want him to do whatever he can. This was not his fault. He wasn't there. He's just been here recently. But whatever he can do in terms of corruption, because the corruption's massive. Now, when Biden's son walks away with millions of dollars from Ukraine and he knows nothing, and they're paying him millions of dollars, that's corruption.
But none of those claims hold any water. And this whole idea that this was just to help Ukraine prevent corruption doesn't make sense. The Department of Defense had already issued a statement saying corruption had declined in Ukraine. In other words, despite the president's insistence, there's no evidence that the Bidens acted inappropriately in Ukraine. Rather, it's his own conversations with the Ukrainian president that have come under scrutiny and will likely continue to be scrutinized in the weeks and months to come. If you hear